This time of year, things get pretty steamy outside, and the worst thing you could do is turn on your oven and heat up your kitchen. So today, we're coming up with an easy lunch or dinner that won't heat up your house. First thing we're gonna do is make our side dish. That way it has plenty of time to chill down, because on a hot day, you want a cool side dish. And we're gonna do that with a tortellini pasta salad. So we're gonna start making our dressing. And to do that, we have 1/3 cup of white wine vinegar. This is kind of a take on an Italian dressing. So then we're gonna add 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar. Then to that, I'm gonna add 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 3 tablespoons of water. What I want to do then is give it a whisk to kind of bring it together. The nice thing about this dressing is if you wanted to, you could even make it in a mason jar or another shakeable container, and then that would help mix all of your bits and pieces together. I'm making my dressing in a really large bowl today because we're going to add a lot of big bulky ingredients. We can always transfer it to a smaller serving bowl in the long run. So I have those all mixed together, and now I'm going to add some more of my flavoring components. So I have 1 teaspoon of honey. This is going to help me sweeten up my dressing just a little bit. So we're going to add that teaspoon in there. Then the next thing that I have is 2 teaspoons of salt. I have 1.5 teaspoons of oregano, and I'm going to take a mini timeout and I'm going to stir this all together. That way I won't have any clumps from my spices. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil. My oregano is dried as well. If you use fresh, you're gonna have to beef up your measurements a little bit, but if you have dried, those are always in the cupboard. Then I have 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper and 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. And we're gonna mix, 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 mix. And there we go. And this is a lot like the Italian dressing that you'd get in the store. There's lots of different varieties of Italian dressing, but this is an easy one that you can make with some good shelf-stable ingredients. So now we're gonna add all of those delicious chunky pieces that make it a pasta salad. So like I said, we have our Italian dressing all mixed together, and now what I'm actually gonna do for the convenience of my own brain, you could do it differently on your own, is mix together all of my delicious ingredients. So what I have here is 10 ounces of tortellini pasta just from the refrigerator section at the store. If you want them really soft, you could cook them, but what I do is I just take them right out of the refrigerator. The dressing is gonna soften these up nicely, so if you can make it an hour or 2 before you eat it, it's doubly delicious because it's softened with that flavor of the dressing. So what I have is that 10 ounces in a bowl, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm going to actually slice up 2 cups of just these little cherry tomatoes, and I'm gonna toss those in as well. You can make the little cherry tomato bits as big or as small as you like. I like to third them. I think that's good for a fork when it comes to picking them up. So after our tomatoes are added in, now what we're gonna do is we have a big healthy handful of spinach, and we're going to slice this up into some smaller pieces so it's a little easier to eat. The best way for me to cut apart my spinach is to make this nice healthy stack just like this, and then I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut through and make some ribbons and just pull my fingers back, and then I can just sprinkle it into my bowl. If you want to, you could definitely leave your spinach whole. This is more of a convenience piece so you don't have those big awkward mouthfuls. So whatever you're more interested in with your salad, it's totally up to you. Now we have our chopped spinach in there, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to add some salami. And so what I've done is I've just gone into the deli section and I've gotten hard salami like you'd get for a sandwich. And what I'm gonna do is just take that whole package, there's 8 ounces, and I'm just gonna come in and slice and dice. Once again, there's no rhyme or reason to how big these cuts are. It's whatever works best for your tastes and your preferences. I'm just gonna rotate my cutting board, and see you can actually do this in one big chunk. Just hold it together with our hands, being mindful of our knife blade. Just like that. And so now all we're gonna do is just take and spread apart those pieces into our salad ingredients. Then really the last thing we need to do is take a peek at ingredients that the store got ready for us. So what I have here is 2 ounces of sliced black olives, and you can buy those already sliced if you want to. If you have more of a preference, you could slice your own. And then we have a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. So now, before I add it into my dressing, I'm just going to give this a gentle toss, just to kind of bring these ingredients together. And you can see this makes a really healthy and hearty serving of this salad. So you could definitely have this for many meals. So now I'm just gonna bring back my first bowl, and I'm gonna give this one more quick stir to bring together all of those oils, because remember we have oil and water in there, and those are gonna separate. So we're gonna bring it back together. And then we're gonna drop in all of our salad ingredients. We're gonna stir this all to make it lovely and dressed. And you can see this is why I wanted that big bowl at the very beginning. It's gonna make it a lot easier to stir this all together. And now I'm just gonna take and transfer it back into my smaller bowl that's easier to take to the table when it's time to eat. And now what I'm gonna do is just pop it in the refrigerator, and we'll take care of all of our other delicious bits for lunch so that we can chill it down. Our main dish is gonna be a hot roast beef sandwich, and your crock pot is your biggest ally on a hot day in a Minnesota summer, because this is gonna heat up your food without heating up the room that you're in. So what I have is I have 14 ounces of beef broth, and to that I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of balsamic vinegar. The next little piece that I'm gonna add is I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of honey. I'm gonna combine that in. It's gonna give our sweetness here. So then to this, I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. That's gonna give my saltiness and my pepperiness. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon as well of soy sauce. So we're gonna combine all that together, and I'm just going to sit and whisk this all together. It's gonna start by being a little thick when you get that in there with that honey. So what you wanna do is break down those ribbons of honey that you have in there. And what this is gonna do is it's not only going to flavor our roast when we put it into our crock pot, but this is also gonna cook down, and it's gonna create like an au jus sauce. So this is a roast beef sandwich that could almost be a French dip, but the ingredients in this sauce are a little bit different. So I have these all whisked together. So I'm gonna move my dirty dishes out of the way, and I'm gonna slide over my crock pot. I'm gonna bring in our roast, and what this is this is a 3.5 pound roast that I got at the grocery store, and I'm gonna set this into the bottom of my crock pot. And what I'm gonna do is just pour my mixture over the top, just like so. So I have this covered. I'm gonna cook this on high for 4 to 5 hours, and I'm gonna make sure that it's fork tender, and that's gonna let me know that it's finished. So let's get this cooking, and let's talk about some dessert. Our dessert is a brownie has a baby with a cookie, and we're gonna call it a brookie. I've also heard these called chocolate turtles. So this is actually a waffle maker cookie, so you can still get that fresh cookie taste right out of the oven without heating up your kitchen. So to get ourselves started, we're gonna take 1/3 cup of shortening, and we're gonna put it into a microwave safe container. And then we're going to take 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. These are semi-sweet chocolate chips, and we're going to put that in there. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna microwave this for about 50 seconds. We want the shortening to melt, but we don't need to worry about the chocolate chips melting. That's what we're concerned about, is the shortening, because then we're gonna stir it together when it comes out of the microwave. If we were going to keep cooking this until the chocolate chips were totally melted, that would take the shortening too far, so we're gonna watch that shortening and have that melt first. So we have our shortening melted, and we should, if we have it melted correctly, see almost like a little lake inside of there with the chocolate chips floating in there. So you'll see when the shortening melts, the chocolate chips sink to the bottom, and we just have this clear layer on top. And it looks kind of weird, it looks kind of mysterious, but once we stir it together, it'll become a really nice chocolate liquid that has a smoother consistency. So we're gonna stir that together now so that it's ready to go. Chocolatey goodness. It'll kind of look like a really rich hot chocolate when you have it all combined together, which we now do. So you can see now we have a drastically different consistency and the two ingredients have mixed together. So now we're gonna get everything else ready. And so in order to do that, we have 3/4 of a cup of flour. I'm also going to add to that 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're just gonna do an easy stir here to bring these together. And then what I'm gonna do is kind of make a little well in there, and I'm gonna drop in my wet ingredients. So my wet ingredients for this recipe are 1 egg, and we're gonna drop it in. On top of that, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of milk and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now I'm just going to take and mix these together. You can do it with a whisk, or I'm gonna save a few moments and I'm gonna use my electric mixer. So you can see I brought it all together, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my chocolate mixture. And now we're just going to stir this all together. So while all these were coming together, I had my waffle iron preheating right over here, and I have it set to a medium, and so you can say, ooh, the steam, it's ready for this. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and just use a scoop and put a little dollop in the middle of each section of my waffle iron. If you had a Belgian waffle maker, one of those big round waffle makers, you could use an ice cream scoop instead of a cookie scoop. And then what you could do is just cut it apart on those waffle lines. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close this up, and we're gonna let this cook for about 3 minutes, and we're gonna have our first round of cookies. So using my cookie scoop, I now have 12 completed brookies. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna gently dust them with powdered sugar. Just keep moving our piles around, brookieing it up, shall we say. And these look pretty gosh darn delicious in my opinion. And I think at this point now, we are ready to see what our dinner looks like. This looks pretty yummy and pretty impressive considering the fact that we didn't have to turn our oven on once. We've got our roast beef sandwich, we have our fantastic tortellini pasta salad, and we have warm, feels like fresh out of the oven cookies that actually taste a little bit like a brownie. This is gonna be fantastic, and this is a wonderful way to cool down after being outside, maybe running errands, or after a hard day of work out in that hot Minnesota weather. So remember, the apron's optional, but the flavor isn't. We have a delicious, fantastic, no, I'm shutting up and starting over again.